Hey, buffaloes and bunnies, and boys and girls. Saturday night at the Atheist. Dissecting Otangelo. We're going live only because got to compete with Gurmania.
Yeah, he's a loser.
He is a loser, yeah. Yeah, he had no life. He's been like for the last 24 hours, I think he's been on stream for 23 hours. So,
yep.
Obviously something wrong.
Yep, and he's just been drinking the whole time, getting drunk. I mean, what a loser.
He's probably having to do the whole stream from his floor.
Yep. I think he keeps throwing up, too.
Yep. So we had a really interesting Otangelo encounter over there that I thought was interesting.
You know, I felt the Holy Spirit.
Did you?
While he was speaking forth the word, I felt the Holy Spirit. Every time he said, "Shut the fuck up, Peter," or "You're a liar," and things like that.
Yeah,
shut up, you lying mouth.
A lot of swearing in that, huh? Wow.
Wait,
I've never heard him.
Who was swearing?
I've heard him on Otangelo.
Otangelo.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he actually swore a couple times. But shut up, you lying mouth, Peter.
I think you missed a lot of it. He was swearing like crazy for a while.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I was in there for quite a long time. And
then he came back on and he apologized.
If you go back and listen, he was swearing a lot.
Yeah. But it was kind of amazing. And this is how they think. So he started talking about that protein paper and the improbability of a protein like a 300 amino acid protein randomly forming all of a sudden, right? The impossibility of that. That's how he calculates probabilities, as if you only have that one chance, that one sample.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to suddenly form. So I started talking to him about protein evolution, and as soon as I started talking about protein evolution, he went off onto, he wanted to talk about, but the cell requires 300 proteins. So then they quickly, I said something, and then he quickly went to the evolution of DNA replication, and then he went right all the way to abiogenesis. And then when I tried to pull him back, and he brought two papers, one by Deemer and another by Benner, right? And neither one supported what he was saying. And then, then he said,
a goalie for that shift right there.
Yeah. Then he said his next thing was, well, he agrees with he read the evidence. He didn't believe the what do they call the inferences that the author made. But the things that he read were basically inferences at the beginning of the paper, where they were talking about the field. Like the Benner paper was just a letter basically listing all the problems that we have in abiogenesis. And then when we pointed, and then I asked him, why is it that you believe that one sentence that you clipped, but you don't believe the rest of the inferences in the paper? You believe the author, or you're using that author as an authority, and you're hitting us with this authority and telling us what a prestigious, researcher he is. But then you're not listening. You refuse to accept anything else. And he said, well, it's inferences. And then finally he got frustrated and he said, well, Speed, you're just delusional. You'll accept anything, but God did it. And then I pointed out.
And then he did an ad hominem. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, then he tells me I'm delusional and I won't accept that God did it. Well, he won't accept that anything else other than God did it. So he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to accept that God did it until you can show me God. But the interesting thing about it is that I don't think any evolutionist is claiming that they know any of this, how any of this happened for sure, right? So we're basically saying, okay, let's read this, do that, figure out this mechanism, and keep going. Never do we say this is how it happened.
Right.
Particularly for anybody, we're researching it. So we have an open position, and he has a closed position, and he's saying that we should consider his closed-minded position as one of our options. That is, that God did it. Yet he has no evidence for God.
Yeah, there's no evidence that a God or some sort of process that skirts the natural order is even in there and is recognizable.
So they believe that they know exactly how it happened, but we don't. So and they're coming at us and calling us delusional, and I just don't understand how that works. So the whole thinking process is as soon as you box them in on one thing, and you get them to try to think about one specific part of part of evolution, they will switch to another part because they can't think about anything in any detail because they're not going to accept any part of it, right?
Because if they looked at it in detail, then they'd understand it, and if they understand it, they'd accept it, as Aaron Ross says.
Yeah, exactly. And so they can't. So you can see how their minds work, that they have all these little points of light that they picked out, these little one-off quotes. And the other interesting thing is the quote he came at us with from the Benner letter was not an exact quote that was in the letter itself. I think it was a quote that he picked up on AIG or one of those places. And so they have all these little one-off things like, we found a polystrate fossil, or we found a fish head with a man track or some fucking thing. And they have all these little one-off things. Yeah, and if you don't take each of those things out of your belief system and analyze them, you will never change your mind. Right. You'll just run across the top. It's like they hit the points across the top, and they've got enough points that they believe they have this really powerful case, and then the rest of it is all ad hom. They'll tell us we're delusional. We just, we're irrational, like Lil Peepee. He always tells us, that, oh, God, we're so dumb. Us atheists are so dumb. We just can't see the truth.
Hey, Speed, I just when you were saying that, I just started imagining something equivalent to like a political cartoon, and I'm like almost picturing a younger creationist with like this little paper contraption inside a bottle, and then suddenly the picture zooms out, and then they're sitting on, or they're standing on top of a bunch of other scraps of paper that have just been thrown out, like this mountain of paper. I just started mentioning that for some reason.
Yeah, they're little one-off scraps that they've gathered together, and it's just amazing, and that turns out to be very much how we all believe things. Like when we believe things, we always have to be willing to take each individual thing out and start examining it from the very beginning. Like, I've said over and over again that I used to be a conservative, anti-immigration, Rush Limbaugh listening, middle class guy, right? And it turns out that I was butthurt because I was paying like 40% in taxes, and I had all these like delusional ideas. And when I started to examine each one of them, each one individually fell apart.
Right.
And at the end of it, I was left with changing my mind, and I've been changing my mind ever since. So
it's a common saying. You have to scrutinize scrutinize everything, but the thing you need to scrutinize the most is what you hold to the most strongly.
Right. Yeah.
Like different quotes summarizing that basic idea. Like, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Speed. Let her in.
My turn.
There we go. Hey,
hi, Lisa, and hi, Orgy. Hi, Orgy.
Hi, you noticed me. Thanks.
Orgy.
You still have your voice, Lisa?
Hey, Speed.
What, Scott?
I said, do you still have your voice from all the having to raise your voice so much?
You got so mad at Danny last night. My God.
Oh shit!
Oh, you should have, because what he said to you was
the guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about when he's talking about dualism.
I know, and he's a weenie. And the way he came after you was the same thing he's done to AJ, Atheist Jr. He's done it to David. He's done it to me. He's done it to Scott, I think. He's done it to just about everybody. He always picks one person that he can dump on, and then he picks another person in the stream that he can cozy up to. And then in the next stream, he'll switch it around. He'll cozy up to you and dump on another person.
Well, but you know, I know what I'm fucking talking about because I've got a BS in psychology,
Right.
you know, and that's what I like to see what kind of fucking degree he has.
Yep. And, you know, I heard everybody saying that you threw the first punch, so I went back and listened to it. And if you threw a punch, it was a pretty mild one compared to all the other things that had happened. And then he just came on with his full on sit down and shut up. You don't have anything to say. You're a dishonest interlocutor and all this bullshit. He has this whole spiel that he does, and then he doesn't feel bad about it, you know. And he said, like, when he was confronted, he basically went off on AJ, and he kind of made him feel bad. And AJ said, you know, you made me feel bad, right? And Danny said, well, you know, that's what should I do about it? That's really not my problem. I mean, I don't apologize for that. And he just went off. And that was when I first banned him from this site. And then I've let him back a couple times on probation, you know. And he was very good this week. A couple times that he came on, he was very polite. And then he did that to you last night. Now he's out for 2 months at least. So he's just a little weenie. I mean, I think he's a sociopath because he's never been sorry for anything he said to anybody. I don't know.
Hey, Speed.
Yeah. What's up, Andy?
Or I guess I had a geology question for Orge, but I don't know if that would derail the stream or not.
I got one too.
Oh, okay. Boy.
It's like a stream of consciousness stream.
Party time. Let's do this.
Okay. Or do you want to go first, Speed, or do I go first?
No. I got to set mine up.
Oh, okay. So Orge, I think we've a while ago talked about some of the driving forces behind plate motions, and I kind of want to dig into that a little deeper, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. What's up?
So I guess nowadays I hear the term mantle convection,
yes,
kind of involving the entirety of the lithosphere and the mantle, kind of as a single interconnected unit, basically, to or simplistically phrase it. And I feel like it's not always clear to me how that contrasts with the idea back in the time of Arthur Holmes, for example, in 1950s and things like that, of instead the mantle as basically flowing and the continents just passively riding along, and the mantle basically kind of dragging them along. And I guess to get to the end of my long-winded explanation, what I'm interested in hearing your thoughts is basically, is there kind of an intuitive way to see these differences between how we thought about mantle convection early on and how we think about it nowadays?
So the history of geology is not necessarily a strong suit of mine. So I don't quite know the way they thought about it in the 50s, although my research professors are very upset at me for not reading books on that. I really should, but I haven't yet. The rides on top of explanation is still used in your introductory geology classes because the idea makes sense. I always use the example of pasta on top of boiling water, right? Is that analogy accurate? I don't think it really is, but it gets the point across to people who are going to take this one geology course for their lab credit, right?
Okay.
The actual mechanisms of the asthenosphere. So the lithosphere is what we're on right now.
Right.
The asthenosphere is what's directly below that has the convection currents. You call it the mantle. You can subdivide it a bunch of different ways, right? Technically, you hear that as the asthenosphere. We don't actually know what's going on down there because, you hear creationists say this a lot. We've never been there, right? All we can do is model it, and we can look at it after the fact. This is moving. What causes that motion? So the idea of the convection currents, of the mantle drag, all that stuff, I think you're getting it correctly. The fine-tuned differences between that is maybe outside of my scope. But I guess what I'm failing to understand from your question is what's wrong with simply understanding as it floating? Like, sure, a PhD that researches this stuff may find that lacking, but it's honestly good enough for any conversation you need to have.
Oh, I guess I was just thinking about in terms of rather than the continents being on top of the conveyor belt in this analogy, basically they're part of it, at least some of the lithosphere plates.
So, well, there isn't necessarily I don't think you could draw a line between the lithosphere and the asthenosphere. You can, in a similar way to the atmosphere versus outer space, you can say where you are in more asthenosphere than in lithosphere. So, like, you're not going to go down and suddenly, like, walk through a threshold and now you're no longer in the lithosphere. But, 50 kilometers north on the top of you, 50 kilometers below you, are going to be different.
Right. Well, I guess I was also thinking about in terms of rather than the as you said, the asthenosphere, like dragging the plates above it. Like,
yes.
I often hear the analogy of baggage on a conveyor system.
Yes.
Like I nowadays hear mantle convection as the process by which heat is exchanged, and that causes the material of the plates to be recycled into the mantle, and then mantle material to become the plates. And so, I guess what I was trying to clarify with my question was basically how accurate is the idea that the mantle literally that is the driving force of plate tectonics, whereas nowadays I hear things about like slab pull and
yes.
how gravity can also play a role.
Yes.
And I'm kind of I'm trying to see, it kind of gets confusing to me, at least, where this idea of mantle convection plays a role, because sometimes that seems synonymous with this dragging mantle idea. And
how and where do you disconnect those two ideas? I don't think, again, if you ask someone who specializes in this and been studying their entire life, they could probably give you a more detailed and more confusing answer. But I don't think you need to differentiate them because they feed each other. Mantle convection pushes the plate, and the plate is being subducted down. Gravity is pulling the plate down, so the gravity's pulling the plate. Convection is pushing the plate, and just the overarching driving force down of the subduction itself is pulling the plate. So you have all of these working in conjunction. Whether is one method more important than another, that depends on who you ask, and you'll probably get different answers. And at the end of the conversation, hopefully they all say, but I don't know for sure. Right. Because I don't know how you would figure out what is the driving factor.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying mantle convection is synonymous with mantle traction or drag or something like that.
I think for any conversation you're going, so not to sound like a jerk or anything like that, but at the level at which you're going to have these conversations, you can consider them synonymous.
Okay.
Unless you start talking to someone who's really deep in this field, you might as well just consider them synonymous because you're not losing any information.
Right.
Like you're starting to get to, you're asking a question like it may be beyond my scope as well because I've been out of this field. I've been out of research for long enough that things might have changed. I don't know.
Okay.
So, but at this like internet level, you know,
right.
You're not wrong in just considering them basically the same idea.
Okay. Thanks for the help.
Yeah, I hope it does.
Forgive me, guys. It's obligatory. I just. I have to do it. Sorry. Anyway, so Orgy.
Yeah.
How did this evolve? The thing on the screen.
How did that evolve?
Granite.
Natural mechanisms, of course.
Okay, so the volcano in Iceland right now.
Yes.
It's spewing out some black-looking stuff.
Nice.
How does granite form? There are intrusions deep underneath the earth.
Granite is felsic.
Yep.
Lava, meaning. Okay. Oh God, I gotta get this right.
Doesn't it have to do a bit with partial differentiation and subduction and all that stuff?
Well, that's before the fact.
Isn't that lava left in the magma chamber that solidified?
Yeah. The partial differentiation, the more you spit out of the magma chamber, the more the chemistry of the magma chamber changes because you spit stuff out, and then the surrounding rock melts in due to the temperature, which changes the chemistry. Yeah. That's all part of it, but granite's a felsic rock. God, is it low or high in SiO2? I want to say it's high in SiO2. I should have these things memorized better.
Can I try explaining it, maybe, Orge, and then you can
understand the question.
Go ahead.
So Speed. So basically, I actually learned about this recently, but so minerals and rocks are different, right? So minerals are made of a set chemical composition of certain elements.
Yes.
And rocks are just a mixture of different proportions of those minerals.
Yes.
We see some minerals in here.
Right.
Basically, they're crystallized out.
Right. So you can think of granite, for example. Granite is a type of rock. Basically, it's different than the basaltic lava that you were talking about, Iceland, in the fact that has different mixtures of those minerals compared to basalt. If I don't know if that helps or not.
Well, that's what I was getting at with the silicate count. Felsic rocks like granite have a higher SiO2 count than mafic rocks like basalt. Okay. What is SiO2? It's quartz. It's light-colored minerals. Yeah. Granite is predominantly light-colored. Your potassium feldspars, your potassium plagioclase, your plagioclase feldspars, your quartzes. These light-colored minerals that are high in SiO2 are more predominant because, like, the mixture, the soup has more of it in it. And as you spit it out, then as you said, it'll change over time, take in surrounding country rock and change. Yeah.
Okay, so change over time. But we'll get to that.
Evolution.
But these crystals that form out. Okay, so this stuff is basically like an intrusion deep within the earth, right? Or at least buried under a whole bunch of.
Not an intrusion. It's like a soup of the magma.
Like
then granite in particular is extrusive. So it cools rapidly, meaning that the slurry doesn't have time to separate, doesn't have time to congeal together and form something ambiguous. So the grains become large because they cool quickly. So they're hanging out with all their buddies.
Okay, so how quickly? I mean, in order to form these grains and to crystallize out these different minerals, how quickly are we talking about?
I think crystallize out is a bad phrasing.
Okay.
I would say something like what's the opposite of a granite, a rhyolite. I think like a rhyolite. If you look up a rhyolite, you can't. It's harder to distinguish the individual colors,
Right.
Because it's all kind of melted together. Because it cooled more slowly, so the particular minerals had time to move around and kind of become a soup. Whereas this is more like a stew, wherein the stuff didn't have chance to move around and mix up with its buddies.
Yeah, but if it's a soup, is the soup homogeneous? I mean, are all these minerals mixed up in the soup, or are they already in these clumps that have crystallized up?
They're
I use that word again.
More or less. Okay, I see. So, like that black dot there, is that black dot in the magma black dot? Is that what you're asking?
It is. Yeah. Is that like all in one cluster in that magma?
Well,
because
let me look up a picture of felsic lava.
Felsic. Let's see, felsic lava. Okay.
So yeah, if you look up, these are just pictures of lava. You can't tell what it is.
Shield volcanoes. Let me see here if I got felsic lava. It's some shit spewing out. I see a lot of spewing.
Hey, what's that?
Okay. A lot of spewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
To my understanding, and again, this is something I've never really been asked, so I gotta try to come up with an answer on the spot here.
Yeah.
To my understanding, the minerals are going to want to, like, when they're under pressure, they're going to kind of be with each other. And then as they cool, the pressure is less, so then they could spread out a bit. But if they cool too fast, they can't spread out as much. So, like, that's probably, that black part is probably like pyroxene or maybe hexambiotite maybe or something like that. And
could I propose a maybe analogous situation in cosmology and see if that's what you're saying
sure.
here, okay?
You and your goddamn cosmology.
I know. So basically, you can think of the CMB things, or the back in the day, before it was released, the light was released. You can think of the matter as kind of these acoustic waves kind of compressing in and out and in and out. And then it was only at the moment where it reached a certain temperature that the certain spreading out of how these waves were distributed was just frozen in place. So would that kind of be analogous to this situation, Jorge, in terms of the cooling?
I wouldn't say that's wrong. It's a tough one. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick up a piece of magma and study it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really hot. You can't open up magma and take a look deep inside of it. But you do know the chemical composition of a magma when it cools because you can look at the rock. And you do know that a rhyolite is fine-grained, and you find those in dikes and sills under the ground already, and a granite is coarse-grained. You find those on top of stuff. So things cool faster, when they're exposed to the air and all that jazz. Therefore, you do not see these similar effects in rhyolite that you do in granite.
Okay,
it's weird.
Can I ask you a question? Totally. Well, it's about lava, but it's totally different. On Hawaii, they have like green beaches and black beaches. What's the difference between the lava that makes a green beach versus a black beach?
I'm assuming the minerals involved. Green beach maybe have like olivine or peridot or something like that, and a black beach would have again more of those like biotites and pyroxenes and stuff like that. That'd be my assumption. But I'm unfamiliar with green beaches and black beaches.
Okay, well, I mean, they're not really well known because they're like hidden in Hawaii. But I mean, I've seen them on TV. I've never been to Hawaii, but you can see them on TV, and
Yep.
But
Actually, I looked it up, Lisa, and I was actually correct. The green sand is olivine crystals.
oh, okay,
So,
cool.
when you go to a white sand beach, you walk in on a lot of quartz crystals because quartz tends to be clear or white. Meaning the rock that was weathered down and eroded up to create that beach was very heavy in quartz. These green sand beaches, therefore, are eroded away from a surrounding rock that was very heavy in olivine.
Okay, I got you. You know,
Okay,
one
Go
thing
ahead.
that I'm sorry.
No, go
One
ahead.
thing that really gets to me, and I mean, it really gets under my skin. And you know, I told didn't tell Otangelo. I asked Otangelo if he knew anything about radiometric dating, and he said, no, I don't know anything about radiometric dating. And I appreciate him being honest with me. But if you don't know anything about radiometric dating, why the hell are you just saying it's false?
Wait, he actually said that?
I asked him if you don't know anything about radiometric dating, and he said he didn't know anything about radiometric dating. I said, well, if you don't know anything about radiometric dating, why the hell are you just dismissing it out of hand?
Right.
I mean, you should at least learn this stuff before you dismiss it.
Amen.
Oh, Speed, I wanted to know if you saw my latest video. I did one on one of SFT's geology things. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Oh yeah. In fact, we've posted the links to it a couple times.
Oh, thank
just
you.
to make sure people,
Yeah,
get. Because I enjoyed it myself. I know you asked Speed, but I really did.
The question was to hit Speed and associated co-host, yes.
Yeah. Back to my question. Now, if I started have we created these granites in the laboratory?
I don't know that one.
Okay, so like if I were to start with I'd start with all these different minerals, and I'd mix them up maybe, and then they would start to settle out and form these crystals. And I guess I'm just wondering about that process, because they all seem to end up in little clumps, pink ones, quartz and feldspar and whatever. And I'm just wondering how long it takes. Like if you cooled it rapidly, it seems to me that it wouldn't have time to form these crystals if you cooled it really rapidly.
Well,
right?
Cooling is crystal formation.
Yeah, it is,
So
but
you can't say the crystals won't form rapidly because that's how they cool. It's like saying,
Okay.
water would cool too fast to make ice.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay.
Speaking of crystals forming, isn't it a crystal that forms where you do your dating? What is it? Uranium to what kind of dating method is taken from little?
From zircons.
Yeah, I think it's zircons. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's uranium to lead dating, I believe.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then of course, there's all the arguments the creationists bring out about halos and things.
Oh yeah, all that crap. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm going to assume it's all crap because creationists say it.
It's pretty cool how they've come up with all sorts of different dating methods from radiometrics.
Do you know why they date zircons?
No.
Because it's basically like a time capsule, isn't it? I don't know.
Do you know why it's a time capsule?
Because it forms a matrix of uranium in the zircon. They will bond in the zircon, and
so
it can't be changed. It's like in
your answer is way more highbrow than I was hoping you would say. Like you're not wrong, but the reason we date zircons is because zircon is a very robust mineral and it survives high temperature.
Oh, okay.
So the zircon's always going to be the oldest thing in any rock.
I'm not too familiar with the YEC argument about the polonium halos, but I think, and I could be wrong, but I think they're saying polonium has a very short half-life, and if the Earth is billions of years old, then why do we have polonium halos in the rock? I think is what the argument is, which really isn't an argument, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, they do that with a lot of other like helium and zircons and stuff like that, or the carbon-14 and diamond stuff, which is this particular signal, this particular result shouldn't exist if the zircon is 2 billion years old. Why does it exist? And most of the time it just comes down to one guy did one paper and he probably screwed it up. But yeah, I'm not super familiar with polonium halos and zircon, so I don't really want to talk about it too much.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let you know, I think that's what their argument is.
Yeah.
I don't really fucking care because I don't think it has anything to do with anything.
Yeah, I did a video on helium and zircons already, debunking that claim, and it was it was kind of along the lines of what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Hey, Cerberus.
Hey, Cerberus.
Hey.
Hey, Cerberus, nice name.
Thank you.
I haven't seen you around in a while.
Well, yeah, my scheduling does not work well with streams currently.
Gotcha.
Me too.
Speed,
I've noticed your absence.
Speed, if you get a chance to go over that link I did, the CSUN one, that's, I think, going to do a good job of explaining in decent language this process. So
Okay.
I have a topic to pose if anyone doesn't have anything else.
No, go ahead.
Does anyone have any thoughts or information on like the little pseudo journals that creationist organizations create to say, oh look, we have peer-reviewed papers too? Does anyone have any thoughts or relevant information on that?
Do I ever? Check this out. Let me.
Because I was looking into it recently, and it seemed kind of.
Well, to be honest, if you're working at a creationist institution, you must adhere to the young Earth creationist model. So it's not really peer reviewed. It's just like, this passes muster, so go ahead and publish it. It doesn't matter whether it's really trash or not, you know.
You mean like this, Andrew? Facts and facts?
No, like the answer.
The Creation Journal.
Yeah, Creation Journal answers, quote unquote, research journal. A CMI, things like that, where they actually kind of talk back and forth with each other and say, hey, this might solve this out of numerous problems with young Earth creation, and they kind of piggyback off each other, stuff like that.
Well, the thing I want to know is, if young Earth creationism was true, why do they have any problems to begin with?
Because of big science, we won't let the truth out.
Mysterious ways. That's the problem.
No, I mean, I know they disagree with, science, and I know what you're saying, Scott. But what I'm saying is, if young Earth creationism is true, they shouldn't have to defend it, because it should defend itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which of these are you interested in, Andrew? Creation Come Daily or Institute for Creation?
Those are all the magazines, I think. They actually have little pseudo journals. Like I said,
those pseudo journals are magazines.
Yeah, but where are those? So would it be under Discovery Institute? Like this stuff? How engineers help save biology?
Give me a sec. I'm going to mute and try and find one.
Okay.
The way I view those organizations and their publications is It's just basically, they have to produce something so that they can solicit donations and memberships and subscriptions and things like that. And there always has to be a crisis of some sort to generate interest and just a sense of unease, so that once again you'll donate and
I think this is what he's talking about. Evolution News is one of them, where they go back and forth.
I linked one of the main one I saw in the private chat.
Private chat. Oh, Dooms of Disingenuous.
I understand doing opposition research.
Yeah, the Answers Research Journal. Okay, I think I get that one too. So,
why?
Let me see here.
This guy get it.
Huh? I get all the. Let's see, answers. Oh God, I don't get that one. Yeah, here. Isn't it Answers? Is that Answers in Genesis? Latest Answers.
Yeah, that's Answers. The Answers, quote unquote, research journal is Answers in Genesis.
I got to sign up for this one. I don't think.
Is this? Is this your speed or is it Andrew's?
It's mine. It's mine. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you and P and Ham were corresponding.
Oh, we're really tight. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
The thing is, their whole ministry is called Answers in Genesis, right? I'm like, you got 65 other fucking books.
You're okay, buddy.
Yeah. Let's see. Answers Research Journal. Cutting Edge Research. Creation Research. This is cutting edge. This has got to be pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. It says so right there. Cool.
It's cutting edge, right?
It's good to know there's some cutting edge stuff out there on the
creation.
Spleen.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Critical evaluation of statistical Brahmanology. That's pretty good.
Wait. The spleen is useful as cutting edge.
Yeah, that's cutting edge. That's brand new. They just found that out,
Oh, thank God those Christians are working hard and saving.
Oh, we got it. Adam and
Like
Eve.
I said, as far as I can tell, it's mostly them piggybacking off of each other and decade-old ideas and stuff like that.
There's some cutting edge shit right here with Adam and Eve. Look at that. I mean, look at the graphics on that.
I didn't know they were all glowy.
Were they on mushrooms or what?
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gypsies massacred as part of the Darwinian eugenic Holocaust. I did know about that one. Theistic evolution, a response to Wayne Grudem making the same errors he opposes in others. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. Did we put that?
I just wanted to throw it out there.
Well, we got to put all this stuff in public chat and in the description now. You guys are killing me. You're killing me.
You're killing me, Smalls.
That's right. Keep speed working, folks.
You're killing me.
Otherwise, you just sit on the porch all day and yell at people about being in this lawn.
So what are we doing here anyway?
Making me sad is what we're doing.
What are you doing, Midnight?
Midnight, we were hiding from you, but you found us.
I mean, if you want, I could leave, Speed. Tell me how you really feel.
How I really feel?
Oh shit! Has Creo been talking to me? I'm sorry, Creo.
Who's over talking who?
No, Creo was talking to me, and I completely missed a lot of it.
Oh.
Doom, doom, doom. I love it.
Oh, Creo, I'm the worst person ever.
While there's a lull in the conversation, there's somebody was playing over on Gur's stream. They've got a they've got an alternative to let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. It goes, fuck it all. It's like, that's great. I need that.
You talking about that song from Frozen, which I never heard?
Yeah, but
it's kind of a jam. Don't lie. No,
yeah,
don't be hating on that song.
But instead of the real words, it's got "fuck it all."
That's a pretty good substitution.
It's an interesting little article here. Anyway, okay, I'm going to try to put this stuff in the description.
Oh my fucking God. They actually have an abstract. They're trying
Oh, yeah.
trying to copy real science.
Yes, yeah. You haven't seen them do that? They do that all the time.
No, I don't really care about their fucking journals.
They really did say, "Fuck your journals.
Yeah.
We're gonna make our own journals with hookers and blackjack."
Just a disclaimer, I'm not throwing this out there to say, hey, look, they have actual journals. I'm throwing it out there to say, oh, look, that's quaint.
Yeah.
It's
Very
cute how
quaint.
they try to make it look like real research.
Yeah.
I agree.
Pretty much.
Answers Research Journals. So I got to put that in my description. Oh, my. I don't think I'm
Like I
subscribed
said,
to that
it's
one.
propaganda and marketing for them.
Like,
That is fucking hilarious. That is fucking hilarious.
is any of their papers an experiment or?
Well, they discovered
like
this
an
brain was
expedition of
useful.
any kind.
No, they don't do a lot of actual research, oddly enough. It's mostly bloviating.
Gee, I wonder why they don't do any actual research.
Well, the answers they're getting aren't the right answers, apparently. So
I wonder if we have any creationists out in the jungles observing chimps just so they can write papers about how they're not like humans at all.
They're more human than human.
I seriously find it. Well, I actually don't find it very. Or I wouldn't find it very surprising if some creationist organization went out and did some research, quote unquote, that supposedly proved young Earth creation when basically it was just they booked a passport, they went to, like you said, the jungle and something, and went on vacation for.
Yeah, it would be on a beach.
And say, hey, look, God's creation.
by the way, David Neff and Dr. Dan just did a stream a little while ago that was informative about Jensen's methodologies and cherry picking and all of that. But the cherry picking is interesting. But how do you get through to a person that has cherry picked all these different, little one-off ideas?
You're asking a very good question, Speed. How do you get to a science denier? And the honest answer is you can't.
Yeah, it just seems like it's just like there's this impenetrable barrier where it's a combination of they don't listen to what you're saying. They've already got their own rebuttal in mind when you're talking, and you can see it. R.J. Downard calls it the potted plant look, and he uses it on Otangelo, and you can see Otangelo's face. He gets this kind of grim, fixed expression, and it's like a potted plant. And he's sitting there, and he's not listening to what you're saying, and then he goes off on a total tangent and confirming that he did not hear what you said. And it kind of drives me crazy because I've got evolution or vaccine denying friends, and I run into the same thing.
Otangelo, and it's not just Otangelo, it's all white ECs. They never answer the question. I'm like, okay, I want you to answer this, right? Either they don't answer it at all, or they go off on a whole nother direction.
Right.
Like Otangelo, I can't remember what I asked him, but then he was talking about proteins, and I'm like, I didn't ask you about fucking proteins, Otangelo,
I mean,
and then,
I would find it okay if they use it as an example or an analogy, but they don't do that.
What did you ask him? You were asking him about, was it something about a paper or something? You were asking him something totally different, and then he asked you, what is a protein? It's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Otangelo?
Yeah. I
didn't ask you that. But then he never, I mean, he didn't even deflect this question. He just flat out never answered this question. I asked him, Otangelo, do you read the methods and analysis sections of papers? He never answered that question. He didn't even deflect it.
He probably didn't know there was. He probably didn't know there was such a thing in a paper. Because if you look at his blog, it's pretty clear. Him and Maddox, I caught Maddox on this a couple times. Maddox says I read all the papers. Well, sometimes Maddox quotes things that are very obviously from Answers in Genesis or Creation Research. He copies their quotes rather than actually going out and reading the source. Even though he has the papers and he's probably perused them, I don't think he's ever actually read the entire paper with an open mind. I don't know. And Otangelo certainly doesn't. It's just mind-boggling. And maybe if we give them mushrooms, maybe we could open up their brains a little bit.
No.
They give me mushrooms. My brain is closed.
They do not need mushrooms. They do not need mushrooms.
Can you imagine tripping with Otangelo?
That sounds like a great segment for anybody's YouTube channel.
Tripping with Otangelo. We should actually start a series, Tripping with Otangelo.
Or we could just do a Tripping With series and just have different people that we trip with.
I thought Otangelo trips over himself.
Yeah. I'm going to say.
I wish I had this is where I need a rim shot sound.
Yeah. We need Peter's soundboard.
I know. I'm very unprepared.
You know, when I forget what I asked him, but I asked him something, and then he said something about there's nothing outside the universe, and I'm like, Otangelo, do you know what you just did? You just destroyed your whole fucking argument about God.
Yep. Yeah.
Never happened. I'm just kidding.
if you take a population that has a higher average chance of hearing voices, you probably should not give them mushrooms.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think it would help.
There you go. A little wisdom from Cerberus.
I mean, I've always wanted to try mushrooms and DMT and LSD.
Be careful that you don't try Amanita muscaria. You'll shit yourself to death.
Don't want to do that. That's not the way I want to go.
It takes about 14 days.
The bottom of my list.
Yep. Bad mushroom trip.
What? You don't like the Santa Claus mushroom? Come on.
The Santa Claus? Is that what they call Amanita?
No, it is. There's lots of Christmas art that has it.
Oh.
In it.
Anyway.
Moving on from mushrooms. Mushrooms are on my mind.
We could always talk about mushrooms in a biological context.
Or we could talk about it in a get really stoned context, Andrew.
We need a fungus expert here.
Ooh.
Is there a fungusologist in the side chat?
So every time I go...
Fungusologist.
Well, I want to be a fungusologist. So every time I go for a walk or my son walks me, I make him stop and I, of course I have to pee on the plants. And then I pick plants well, my son takes me for walks with a leash and throws the ball for me. But anyway, I put all these plants in my pocket and I pull them and put them on my microscope, and I'm horrified to see how many mites have crawled away from these plants. But anyway, on all of these plants, if I leave them for one day and look at the stems at about 120 magnification, there's little tiny mushrooms growing on them, like little tiny mushrooms that you can't see with your naked eye at all.
That's amazing.
On almost every one of them, they just pop up. And they look like, toadstool style mushrooms, with the cap and everything. Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Now that was you should have mounted one and shown it to us.
I think I have a video somewhere. I'll see if I can dig it up, but I'll find more because I do tend to gather a lot of plants, especially in the fall. My God, you cannot go for a walk in the fall without looking at the absolute complexity of every single seed pod and flower that's popping up. I mean, I've got a whole I've got a whole bouquet here sitting in water that I got to go through and do videos of.
Yes,
Speak-
therefore God.
Speak, could you do me a favor?
I have severe allergies, so I would rather not go into the woods.
Yeah, I think I might too, but I got over it after a while. You just, you sneeze and then you can't sneeze anymore. It quits. So I don't know.
Speak, could you do me a favor?
Which one?
Next time you go out and get a bunch of plants, can you soak them for about an hour and then lay them out and sit them for a day and tell me if they still grow fungus?
Okay. Oh, you mean to see if the spores will die in water?
Well, to see if where the spores are coming from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. You mean you think they might be coming from my environment?
Yeah.
You're telling me that I'm a bad housekeeper.
Oh, you don't. You could be a good housekeeper and have a bad
man.
environment.
Yeah, my blueberries too tend to get a little fungus on them if I don't rinse them with vinegar.
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. Did you know that if you rinse your berries in vinegar, that they will keep for about a week longer than normal? If anybody knew that.
I know that.
Fungus do not like acid environments at all. They do not like it. I should rinse my plants.
Should we go back to...
No, go ahead. I was being stupid anyway.
Oh, I was just saying, should we go back to ranting about creationists? This seems to be going off topic a little bit.
Oh, we don't have no stinking topic. We don't need no stinking
You
topic.
know what I mean, Speed.
You're just trying to angle into your goddamn cosmology and physics.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you come
That's
to a
true.
biologist channel and you want to talk about physics. I know how you are.
So you like physics, but you don't like fungus?
I like physics, but
I was actually
Andrew.
addressing Andrew, yes.
What do you mean? I like fungi.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
because you
eat
said
them.
something about changing the topic.
Oh,
And I
no.
thought, well, you must not like fungus because we're changing the topic.
Oh, no. I guess I might have been implying that.
And you don't have to like fungus. I was just curious.
I've got something to say, and I hate ragging on poor Otangelo because he really is a good sport most of the time.
He is sweet.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, he was talking about the Big Bang created something, and I'm like, and I think it was Speed of Sound that was like, dude, that's a fucking poster from NASA that's designed for kids. Of course they're gonna say that.
Yeah.
Weren't we actually talking about that backstage?
Yeah, we were just
we
talking
were.
about it, and somebody showed the link that he showed, right?
Yeah, I did, but now I clicked off of it, so I can't show it again.
Oh, damn. But you have history, don't you? You have history?
I do. I don't know how to access it. I'm just kidding.
I don't want to see Scott's history. That is
Just too much for your little minds to care.
It's amazing that it's the programmers that have the biggest problem using something like Chrome and Google, you know?
But I also think it's hilarious that they think that, you know, we think that pieces flew up. This is what Kent Hovind says,
Yes.
word for word. Pieces flew off and became the galaxies and solar systems and all that shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? There was none of that shit at the Big Bang. It was too hot for matter to exist.
Well, that's not even how expansion works, or metric expansion of space-time works anyway. So that's just
this is true. This is true.
It's just a misrepresentation, is what it is.
Well, yeah, because that's all they can do. They have no real argument.
I mean, if like I was telling Scott backstage, if you want to be really nitpicky, the Big Bang actually doesn't address where the matter, the energy, space-time came from.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah. it's a theory of more about how it got to its present state from an original state, but not necessarily where that original state came from, or even if it was the original state, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I get flack for this all the time, but I mean, for all we know, the universe is eternal. I mean, if they're saying a fucking God can be eternal, why can't the universe be eternal?
That's special pleading right there.
Because God magic. That's why.
Magic.
So, what other things are topics about the Big Bang do you think people need to be more nitpicky about, Andrew?
Where to begin? Let's see. I guess first, the idea that. Okay, how about this? So you often hear the idea that if space is expanding, which is kind of an iffy phrase in terms of general relativity, which is what the Big Bang is fundamentally based in. But like you often hear, oh, space is expanding, therefore why aren't planets, people, and galaxies and everything within galaxies expanding? And this, I think, is one reason why we need to be a bit more nitpicky on why space is expanding the way it is, and why in particular it's a metric expansion. And this is because on the largest scales, like really, really ridiculously large scales, larger than galaxies, galaxy clusters, galaxy superclusters, space is pretty much on average uniform. And when you plug those conditions into the Einstein field equations, you get what's called a metric for space-time that is dynamic. And it doesn't necessarily need to expand, but it is expanding in this case. And the reason why we're not expanding is because that same metric doesn't apply to our scales, precisely because we're not in a uniform distribution of matter. Like, obviously there's a tree over there and there's not a tree right next to me. So we get a different metric for space-time, one that is not expanding. And I think that's one thing that needs to be addressed, is the fact that the Big Bang fundamentally is based in the mathematics of general relativity. That's where it came from, the expansion of space. And if we framed it that way, maybe, who knows, it might be better for at least some people to understand. I don't know.
Cool.
Not trying to ramble.
I think your issue, and again, I'm coming at this from an educator perspective.
Right.
You're not. Yeah. There are some things you're simply not going to be able to understand without the background knowledge that requires a want to understand it. So, like, you always are going to run into issues where someone's not going to get it, and they're just not going to get it. And it's a pick your battle sort of conversation at that point.
Yeah, also, isn't it kind of incorrect anymore and imprecise to really say Big Bang? What's it called now? Is there a Greek letter something expansion, or?
Are you referring to lambda?
Maybe, but because lambda. Yeah, I've heard Leo Filius talk about that.
The concordance model, lambda CDM, dark energy plus dark matter.
Okay, yeah, because might as well start using it by its correct name for a model.
Can I quickly respond to what Otangelo said, and then
Otangelo's here? Hi, Otangelo.
Is he Otangelo's vlog now? Oh, okay. So okay, what did he say?
So Otangelo, your quote directly says an enormous explosion known as the Big Bang. That indicates that that's a teaching tool and is not as trustworthy as you think it is.
And it's probably outdated.
I'm just going to say that.
Well, another thing
was not an explosion.
Aside from, I don't think that Otangelo reads the methods and analysis section. But even if he did, I don't think he knows how to do the math. So if he doesn't know how to do the math, then how can he even say, I reject this or accept this? Because, I mean, that's what the papers are based on, is the mathematics, you know?
Yeah, and to show you the difficulty of all this, anytime somebody says what's outside of the universe or what came before the universe, you're already wrong, because there is no such there is no way to talk about outside and before with the universe. It's something even stranger than that.
I wouldn't go that far, Speed. I would just say that our current language is not sophisticated enough to talk about these situations.
Right, because we think in terms of 4D space-time, but there's something like we may be embedded in some larger, some stranger geometry, right? But when you say outside of something, you're automatically thinking in our primate sort of way about containers, and I have a pail of fish, and that sort of thing. And it's very, very difficult to get your mind around that, but you can with the mathematics. When you get into the really strange math that they do, then you can start to see this stuff from a different perspective. But we always want to go back to our intuitions about things, and our intuitions say, "Oh, there's got to be an outside," right? But no, maybe there isn't an outside. It doesn't work that way. There's something even weirder going on. Geometrically.
So this conversation is all revolving around the issue of there being a problem with saying I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know shit about.
We don't know what's outside. We don't know how to define outside.
We don't even know how to talk about it. Yeah,
like we have math that doesn't translate into a Discovery Channel show hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson very effectively. Like I don't know.
Basically, all our prepositions just go to hell when you try to think about.
Exactly,
and it's sort of
and it's cool to pontificate on it, but
I mean,
want to say I don't know and let that be acceptable. But
there's an attitude about scientists saying I don't know that this whole thing that modern science is supposed to be this pristine, we know everything sort of bullshit, right?
Right.
And anytime you say I don't know, they want to say, oh, see, scientists are confused. But they know.
That's why we need to say it's the best current explanation, or it's the best method. It's the best theory we have. It's not necessarily the absolute correct one.
Yeah, Lisa.
Oh, that's okay. One of the things that really pisses me off that creationists ask is, well, if the universe is expanding, what is it expanding into? I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, the technical answer is it's really expanding into itself.
Yeah.
So, and again, Lisa's point gets to that big crux, which is, and as Speed was saying, that is a reasonable question, but the answer is unreasonable. Like the language of the question is fine, because if you expand, you're expanding into something, right? But
because we've all been blowing up balloons since we were little kids,
right? So it's not that it's an unreasonable question; it's that the answer defies your day-to-day living.
Intuition,
And that concept is so like sci-fi, it seems fake by definition. But but fucking Captain Kirk was talking to someone's face in his tricorder in the 60s, and that was sci-fi, and now I do it every single day.
What the heck do you mean by metaspace, Otangelo? I just gave you the answer. What are you even talking about?
Speaking of metaspace, Asimov's Foundation is coming out on September 24th.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
I love that book series.
That book series is awesome. Epic.
Some of us have been waiting for 40 years.
There's no such thing as metaspace.
Yeah, I'm Googling it.
That doesn't even make sense.
It's a Google word.
Well, you could be talking about this geometry that I'm talking about. That there's some other geometry.
Well, look, I use Google for a lot of things, but Google is not a good source for science. Fuck Google for science.
Oh,
Yeah.
Google does just fine.
Well, now scholars, the Google Scholars thing can get you to some good science, and it can get you to some bad
Otangelo,
science.
I'm not seeing Metaspace anywhere that's relevant. So you're going to need to provide a link or something, because that's not something I'm familiar with.
Really must be stressed that there is, once again to the mathematics, there is no contradiction. Or there may be an intuitive contradiction, but there is no fundamental contradiction between a universe that is expanding everywhere at once and a universe that simultaneously does not have a boundary or edge.
Here we go. Wiktionary has an entry on Metaspace. Let's see. Countable and uncountable. Let's see. Philosophy. Space transcending or ordinary physical space, such as cyberspace. No,
What?
not cyberspace. Why did they say cyberspace? That's bullshit.
Cyber.
Okay, computing theory. Like Java 8 has a number of references to Metaspace. Anyway.
Interesting.
Okay, that might make sense in the context of computer theory, but we're not talking about computer theory. We're talking about cosmology.
Yeah, it's not from physics. It's from philosophy and computing theory are the two entries that they
explains
have. Oh, they also have an entry for meat space. I want to know about meat space.
You're in it.
Okay, so I'm not one. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is just from a documentary I watched, but I'm pretty sure they called something metaspace, and I don't remember the name of the theory that they were talking about, but it's about what they called metaspace. That there is a space that like universes popped up in.
Yeah, some other geometry that that we don't clearly understand yet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they called it, metaspace. There's a space in between other spaces.
Yeah, that's acceptable. Yeah.
When we talk about
that makes sense. But the way Otangelo was using it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Well, the way we talk about cosmology and stuff, I really do feel like I need to try some psychedelics of some sort.
Oh yeah, back to mushrooms. We're back to mushrooms. Full circle.
I need it. And I said psychedelics. There's other options, but I just need something to make me at least feel like I understand it. And I hear when you have those experiences, you feel like you understand a lot of things, and then when you come out of it, you no longer do. But
Scott, when I talk about this, Scott, don't get the impression that I understand everything about it. I don't. I'm just putting. I understand the basics of it, but like it doesn't. It's intuitively very complex. I agree.
De Sitter spaces, yes.
Ooh, De Sitter.
Yeah, that's where you go to hire babysitters.
Hire babysitters? I mean, meta babysitters? Yeah.
Meta babysitters, yeah.
Fun fact, De Sitter space was actually one of the first, or I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first expanding space-time metrics after Einstein proposed his theory, and it basically involves if I remember correctly, a universe that doesn't contain any matter or energy, so kind of unrealistic, but it's one.
What would that be? Yeah, that's wild. That's wild to think about.
No matter, but it's expanding at an accelerating rate, kind of like dark energy.
What would a universe look like that doesn't have any matter or energy?
Well, you couldn't look at it by definition.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be in it.
Tracy Harris used to talk about this all the time on Atheist Experience about when you talk about nothing, we don't really know what we're talking about because can anybody really conceptualize nothing? It's just very hard and hard to know what you're talking about when you talk about nothing.
There's a reason why zero didn't exist for so long.
Yeah.
What is zero? How do you not have something?
Hey, Richard.
Hello, Lisa. Hello, everyone.
They use the number zero basically to make people with low self-esteem feel even lower.
I just,
So they
I
came
would
out zero.
I'd just like to
Hello.
interject that there's a difference between absolutely nothing and a universe that has no matter and energy in it.
So
Hey,
what the hell
Leo.
was midnight
I
doing?
guess so.
And
How
the
long was
difference is there may still be a law of physics, or there may be some natural laws and stuff in such a universe that has no contents, which is not the same as absolute nothing, which you couldn't say has any particular laws either.
Well, yeah, that's the classic. If a tree falls in the wood, if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a sound.
Well, I don't think so.
Sound is an interpretation of physical waves by your brain. So if you don't,
Exactly.
no one hears a tree falling.
Did we lose
It doesn't
somebody?
make a sound. But if you would have been there, it would have made a sound.
We lost
Yeah, I
midnight.
mean,
So it's one of those. It's that kind of question.
Yeah, I mean,
Looks like we
no,
lost
if a tree falls and nobody's there to hear it, it does not make a sound. Now that blows people's minds, but I mean, sound is
You got to specify.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't make a sound, but it releases acoustic waves.
I've gotten into this fight
This
with
is
people
true, Leo.
before.
This is true, Leo.
I've gotten in this fight with Speed before as well. I hate when people use thought experiments with no actual answer as an argument. Like Mary's room does not have an answer. Shut the fuck up about it.
An argument with no answer is a cone.
You don't know it doesn't make a sound, but it's fun to talk about. You shouldn't say a definitive answer to that thought experiment because there's no way.
Well,
to
I mean, it does depend on how we define sound. If we define a sound as the mental interpretation of an acoustic wave, then it doesn't. Then there is no sound.
So if we
there's
disagree
still
on
the
the
acoustic
definition,
wave.
exactly. If we disagree on the definition, there is no answer because
problem
neither
with-
of us can prove that we're right.
The problem with the idea of multiple universes is it's just an idea. We don't actually have any evidence of it.
Don't we have those particles that popped into existence in the Large Hadron Collider that might have been from different universes?
How do we know they're from different universes?
Well, they're not. The thing is, particles don't pop into or out of anything. That is a very, very much an overly simplistic description of what vacuum field fluctuations are. A better way to put it is if you took some specified region in a vacuum field, which is a quantum field in its vacuum state, or its state of thermal equilibrium, its ground state, its lowest possible energy state, and you just had a say, and I'm speaking a little bit, metaphorically here, but you had a camera that snapshots every second what that particular region of that field is doing. What you'll find is the amounts of energy at all the points in that field will be different every single snapshot, but they will never be zero, i.e. the field fluctuates, but there aren't particles just popping that's not a thing that happens. I felt I should clarify that. Also, this steak is really good. I hope you all get
Leo, I have got to have you on my channel sometime.
Leo,
I don't want to get into this with Leo right now because Leo doesn't get into things well, but I'm going to have to side with Randolph and what he said there more so than Leo, in that we have ideas about this popping in thing that Leo hates, but it's hard to really quantify these things and put them
it's
in
actually
stone,
not. They're actually very, very, very well quantified
Again,
and well
I'm willing to
understood.
I just wanted to say earlier that I'm going to guess that Leo's steak is not at absolute zero.
Oh no, far from it. Very, very far from it.
Well, what is the temperature in kelvins? Can you tell us? I think you probably could.
Probably 50, 60 kelvins, maybe 50, 60 Kelvin, maybe something like that, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelvin. Yeah, I'm going to say singular.
Kelvin, holy fuck.
As opposed to Fahrenheit or Celsius. Sorry, Orge. I wanted to get that in, but I didn't want to interrupt Lisa.
I have no interest in going down this rabbit hole with Leo tonight. I'm not.
What rabbit hole?
Here, so.
I mean, I don't really think there's a rabbit hole to it. I mean,
I don't want to do this, Leo. Let's drop it.
We
You
know
can
what
stop
vacuum
defending
field
your point.
fluctuations
I don't
are.
wanna do I yield to you. Just accept the victory.
Let's
and
pick
move
a
on.
different topic. Let's pick a different topic.
No, but this has nothing to do with victory or anything. It's just
I don't want to do
that. I mean, it's a part of what I do. I'm a science communicator, and
yeah, I know.
The thing is, I'm actually not saying like responding to Orge here. It's just that what he said brought up a thought in my head that I often hear. He hasn't made this argument. I don't think I've ever really heard him make the argument. But there are a lot of people that do say things along the lines of, we don't really understand, like dude, I still hear people tell me we don't really understand what electromagnetism is. Yes, the fuck we do. These things might be complicated. These things might be very, very, very complicated. But believe me, we understand them very, very, very well. And again, I'm not like, this isn't like a response or anything to what you said.
In electromagnetic fields, we can create at will with the help of electricity.
No, we're fighting, Leo. We're enemies now.
Let's find a new topic.
Pineapple on pizza?
Only if there's
why not?
It's only acceptable with ham.
I mean, I wouldn't do just like a pineapple and cheese.
So a pig needs to die for you to eat a fruit?
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Just like, you ever had bacon wrapped around like pineapple
bacon is
grilled? Oh, fuck, buddy.
Bacon is the best.
Cosmic Skeptic would not like this conversation.
Well, bacon is the best. And you know it's the best because they both start with letter B. Yeah.
Yep. And you know what the other thing is that vegans talk about how much we should not eat meat. And then they go and try to make all their food taste like meat. I mean,
I agree.
There's another thing I know that can take plants and make them taste like meat. It's called a cow, and it's 4 stomachs. And I'll tell you what, it really does a hell of a job. A hell of a job. So, guys,
that's why I love cows.
Goddamn right. Pigs. I was waiting for fucking Speed to goddamn chime in here.
Yep, meat. That's all I eat.
Cows with raccoons riding on their backs, right?
Yep. Hey, I got 26 raccoons now that I'm feeding.
Cow. Says the raccoon.
That would be a battalion I would probably want to avoid, if I'm being honest.
But it'd be interesting to see.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And you know what goes good with meat? Fucking potatoes.
Oh, yeah. Meat and potatoes.
Last night I was late feeding my raccoons, and they sent a posse up to the front door, about 10 of them. My son went out to get a package, and they were like waiting there, like, "Where's he? What's happening?"
You must think the neighbor's crazy.
Is that like a real thing that happened? Like they were literally out there waiting.
Yeah, literally. We've got a abandoned or a house that's for sale next to us, and I got a feeling I'm going to have trouble with my neighbors because I got 26 raccoons between me and them. I hope they like animals.
If you ever come to BC, go see Stanley Park. There's a Prospect Point. The raccoons come up all the time, and they have a big problem with people feeding them, even though the signs say don't feed them.
Yeah, I know. They're so mean to raccoons. Why not feed them? They get skinny if you don't feed them.
Exactly.
They're so cute.
By the way, just to Maynard saves, venison and potatoes. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. For those, the plebes that don't know, by whatever chance, venison is deer meat. And it's fucking delicious.
House of Reason 78 is bringing up a point here about veganism and ethics and all this. Here in Canada, there's regulations about food animal slaughter that they have to be slaughtered in a manner that's painless to them. So there's you can't do it cruelly. Problem is, not everybody follows it yet, but there are more and more of that going on, so that's good. But unfortunately, the health department here looks the other way when it comes to halal slaughter, the Islamic style, which is extremely painful for the animal. But so we're hoping that'll change in the future.
Quick question, Randolph, because I'm sure you know more about it than because I've only ever heard about it.
Look at these raccoons. Yeah.
The halal, is that, don't they start with slicing the throat? Like, don't they just, or is there more to it than that?
They slice the throat while the animal is conscious and all the blood lets out. They are against the animal being unconscious first. The animal specifically has to be conscious.
Yeah.
That's
and
my
you know what?
understanding.
Yeah, and that would have been a great method, 2,500 years ago when we didn't have modern technology.
Not for the animals, but yeah,
nowadays,
And the problem is when they're doing it, they're slaughtering a whole bunch of animals at once, and the animals are seeing the other animal getting slaughtered, and you can see them in them. The animals trying to get away from that as far away as they can. They don't want to be next. So the animals are very aware of what's going on. So their adrenaline is rushing. And then the meat has adrenaline in it because not all the blood goes away, right? So they've got all this adrenaline. And apparently that's results in the meat not tasting as good when there's adrenaline. Because people are finding when you don't have that adrenaline, the meat tastes better.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, it does. 100%.
Yeah, so
It's
insane. there's another good reason there. So you can use taste to promote ethical slaughter.
So I'll pose this question: what do we feel about the future of eating insects?
It's a positive, and it's something that should be seriously explored. I think
the future is bright.
I should clarify really quickly that, so I'm not saying that like we're gonna sit down and be eating like massive cockroaches dipped in chocolate for appetizers, but like the sources of the proteins and like the fats and the carbohydrates and the things that we put in our foods will probably be sourced from insects in the future. I know there's a lot of places, not many, but a lot where they are starting to do that. But I definitely think primarily protein from insects is going to be a very, very large, that insects are going to be a very large source of protein in the next 20 plus years, easily.
How different is the protein from insects versus the protein from animals?
Oh my God, I really wish Brainbug was here because he knows all about this. I don't think it's okay. Yeah, you go ahead.
I know a bit about this. So if you Google any cricket farm, they will tell you that a cricket by weight is, I believe, 5 times the protein by weight, 200 times less water by weight for the same amount of meat, and 30 times less land use per pound of food.
But my question is not about the quantity, but about the quality of the proteins.
I believe it's the same quality of protein.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And you get good cholesterol as opposed to bad cholesterol.
Because my understanding is like the vegetable proteins are quite different from meat proteins.
What you're looking for is the relative concentration of the different amino acids, and overall for an insect, you're going to get a complete complement.
So can I ask a question, Speed? Is it just amino acids broadly, or would it be specifically like BCAAs?
BCAAs?
Branched chain amino acids.
You're basically going to get all of the. You need all 20 amino acids, or you should have all 20 in your diet. Well, you can manufacture a bunch of them, but having a good complement. Like if you eat rice, it doesn't matter if they're branched chain or not. I think that's probably some bullshit marketing tactic. Tell you the truth, Leo, I'm not sure.
What branched chain amino acids?
Secular Mom just mentioned jellyfish. I know our oceans have a lot more jellyfish these days because there's less sharks and less whales.
But like when you eat certain, like I think when you eat rice, you end up with missing some amino acids, and then if you complement it with beans, you get a complete. But if you eat any kind of animal product, you're going to get everything, basically. Pretty nutritious. And I don't think insects probably have less fat, when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So they would have more protein, right?
If it's ground into the food down to a powder or something, and I don't know that I'm eating insects, I'm fine with it. I just don't like the idea of putting bugs in
it's psychosomatic. Your brain tells you it's weird because culture has told you it's weird.
Yeah.
It is.
Can't be
Yep.
wrong with it.
I know it's
That's
psychosomatic.
why I've been fighting that. Like the only one I probably wouldn't want to like eat outright, if you know what I mean, would be crickets. But like I would eat shit derived from crickets, no problem.
What the hell's wrong with eating crickets?
Crickets they're just nasty. They're like little nasty fucking dirty fucking never scurvy stoner pothead basement dwelling little fucking teenagers. That's what they're like with bugs. Like they don't take showers and
Why are
grody
crickets? Yes, why are crickets nasty? Explain to me in serious words.
Nasty.
Like, do you have an actual reason, or are you just like memeing why crickets are gross?
And the scurvy is easily addressed with fruits like apples.
I just said so because they live and eat gross things, live in gross places.
Well, so if you farm crickets, they don't live in gross places, right?
Been reading about BC amino acids.
Wait, is this like pause or something?
I think Leo.
Oh, Leo's
has
the one.
frozen.
Okay.
Oh, Leo froze up.
So secular
doesn't.
pagan mom's pointing out that the Japanese have been finding ways to utilize jellyfish because of the mass blooms making fishing harder from lack of fishing. My understanding is it's the sharks would be eating them and the whales eating a lot of them too. And it had the biggest impact, and with the Japanese doing finning of sharks and whales, which means they chop off their fins and take the fins away, and then that animal just falls to the bottom of the ocean and eventually dies because it can't swim because its fins are gone. It's really sick, you know.
Will they do finning for like
just because they want to put
religious reasons or both?
No, they're selling the fins as soup in a restaurant where people pay way too much for it.
I've ate shark fin soup before. It's not really that good.
The shark fin, the fins themselves, whale fins and shark fins don't actually have really any flavor or very little. It's the soup that gives them the flavor.
Yeah, it's pure. To my knowledge, being not Japanese, it's purely a cultural thing. It's been done, so you do it.
A lot of Asian cultures do it, not just the Japanese.
Yes, but I think my point still stands.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you.
You heard it here. Richard's pro shark fin soup. That's why I took away from this.
I'm not pro shark fin soup.
Really quickly for speed, the branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine.
Yep. I'm just looking up the.
I'm pretty sure those are in the protein in bugs. So.
Yep, 80.9% of the total protein meat. So basically, if you eat meat, milk, or meat or dairy, I think you're pretty much going to get a hell of a. Okay, 39%, 41%, and 37% respectively, meat products. So
now,
anyway, I wouldn't worry about. I just wonder, like for vegan diets or for people that are on strange diets, you might run into a problem.
Yeah, I know somebody who went vegan. And she had ended up within a few years, like I think it was about 3 or 4 years of it. She was having some problems. She became anemic. Doctor looked at her. She started developing depression and anxiety, and the doctor did a blood test and found that her iron count was down to like 10% or something of what it should be.
Almost fatal.
It was dangerously low. And so she had to start eating meat and take iron supplements because what the doctor had said was roughly you need to eat a full table of all this kind of vegetables to get the same amount of iron and protein you get from eating meat.
Right.
Yep. So, when people say that there's a lot less resources needed for the vegetables, what they're not thinking of is how much more vegetable you need to eat to make up for what the meat does.
Yeah. Well, if you ever watch a cow eat a bale of hay,
I have not.
They work it hard.
It's pretty boring.
They really eat a lot.
It's pretty boring.
It is boring. Yeah.
They can cut the grass, and all the cows will line up in the same direction because they can sense the magnetic north.
Oh yeah. The interesting thing about cows.
I was never vegan, but I was vegetarian for a while, and I mean, when you have a diet like that, you have to be very particular about what you eat because I mean, you have to make sure that you get all the nutrients that you need. And there is a way to do it on a vegetarian diet, but I'm not so sure about a vegan diet.
I think like rice and beans is one thing, but then I don't know about your minerals and iron and all that stuff.
The vegans won't even eat fish. They won't eat the eggs from animals. They won't drink the milk from animals.
They don't eat honey
products at all.
Vegans don't eat honey because honey is made by bees, and bees are animals.
Good example, right there.
And if a vegan is eating honey, they I don't know how the fuck they're calling themselves a vegan.
So, and the thing is, we are natural meat eaters. So for us to not eat any meat is not a natural course for us.
That's how our brains grew to be what they were.
In China, my wife's telling me, is like once a month people would have meat to eat. It was a big deal. Wow. And otherwise, if you could catch a rat in the field or something, you had a little extra meat for a while. It was a long time ago. Nowadays, people eat a lot better in China than used to be. But for the longest time, that's what it was like. This is mass starvation and stuff like that. So anybody there overweight.
That's why I'm raising them raccoons.
Yeah, that raccoons video you showed earlier was amazing. You've got a whole army there.
There's an army. I'm trying to get them to follow me down the street, and then I'm going to wear a cape and get a staff.
How many do you think hang around your house now?
20. I counted 26 the other night.
Jesus
Christ.
I'm getting a little bit worried about what
all
I've
the
done.
Rakins.
Well, for one thing, I'm going through like 57 pounds of dog food a week.
Jesus Christ, dude!
Try cat food.
The dog food is pretty cheap at Sam's Club. I can get a 57-pound bag for $20.
Okay.
Cat food is a whole different matter. I might consider feeding them my cats at some point. I don't know.
Well, I've heard the cat food's more dense because the cats take longer to eat it, and because it's harder for them to chew it apart. So if the raccoons are eating more slowly, they may not be as needing to eat as much.
You know what's weird? If I throw out a chunk of ham or hamburger or something, they will throw it down and go for the dog food. They want the dog food.
But if there's no dog food, they'll eat the ham.
Yeah, but only reluctantly. And they won't eat potatoes at all. They just hate potatoes. I don't know why. But it's pretty.
While we're on diet, I don't know anything about this book, but apparently there's this book put out by creationists that says the title is Little Tyke, the Lion That Wouldn't Eat Meat, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Right.
Yep.
That's an old Kent Hovind standby, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Hey guys, where did Otangelo go? Wasn't he here a little bit ago?
He was.
I thought I heard some people responding to him in the background as I was cooking my food.
We quit talking about him, so he left.
Yeah. You know what? I think it doesn't really matter. If he's not here, he's not here. Let's just forget
I
about
was just like, where did he go? Otangelo.
If you want someone to talk to, Leo, I had a question for you.
Well, yeah. No, so I figured because he usually sticks around. I just didn't know where the fuck he went. But yeah, shoot me. Hopefully, I don't die.
Okay. By any chance, are you familiar with the? I guess would you be able to explain the idea of stress, in particular shear stress in physics?
Not really. No.
Okay. Never mind then.
Shear stress on what?
Well, I'm trying to, I guess, relate it to the stress energy momentum tensor in general relativity.
Okay, because when you say stress, you can stress a like a beam or something like that.
Yes, that kind of stress, not emotional stress.
Right. But in general relativity, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's all relative to the topic.
So you're not talking about mechanical stress?
Yeah, it's
shearing.
Tau equals F over A, where I believe A is the shearing force. No, F is the shearing force. I don't know what A is. They don't, I guess, tell you what A is.
Because what I'm trying to figure out...
A is the cross-sectional area.
Because I know it's kind of a property of energy in this case, but is it in any way related to the pressure of the energy?
I would need to know the context.
And I guess, like I said, in the context of the Einstein equations, like the tensor.
Like the stress energy tensor?
Yes.
I really don't know much about it. All I know is that it defines the stress in space-time as a result from the mass energy present within some defined region.
Okay. All right, you guys can talk about our stuff now.
Impact. Shear stress in fluids is really cool. I was reading about shear stress and sedimentation of rocks and laminar flow and turbulent flow and all of that. And that's pretty intense stuff.
I guess another thing, Leo, would be how do you feel about the fact that pressure can cause what we would call a gravitational force in general relativity?
Oh, that.
So
Yeah,
it
that.
just seems to me it'd be an expected result of the equations.
I don't
Right, but,
understand
like,
what pressure would be in
it's so.
that sense.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's so non-Newtonian, I guess, in the way we're used to thinking about it.
Oh, of course. Just like quantum mechanics is.
We linked that article a couple days ago in the weather report on pressure and gravitation, right?
Thanks for
Oh,
that, Steve.
I must have missed it.
So
Yes.
if you want to know what the stress energy tensor is,
No.
I mean, it's a tensor. It has 16 components. The first one, T naught naught, is the energy density, and then you have the momentum
Right.
density,
Well,
the
well,
energy flux, the momentum flux, shear stress, and the pressure.
Right, I understand the other components. I just don't understand what exactly shear stress is in this context. Like, I've never heard of it before.
Oh my. There are 16
Sorry,
of those little levels.
I know I'm getting into high
Yeah,
level
it's a
stuff
4x4 matrix.
here. Yep.
Wow. That's some complicated shit. At least for me.
Well, tensor analysis is quite rigorous.
Well, think about a rubber sheet when you think about tensors, and think about, you stretch out a rubber sheet and you drop a ball on it. And the tensor describes the force at every particular particle. So there's a number of dimensions in it, as I understand it, or my mild understanding of tensors. And that is a good way to think about them, sort of. But well, let's see, is of order 2, its components can be displayed in a 4x4 matrix. Yeah.
I'm sorry I
know.
turned a lot of this into a physics stream speed. I know you don't like physics.
We're going to have to get into partial differential equations next. They're coming.
I'm struggling to understand differential equations.
Yeah. Yep. I wish we could solve those little buggers.
Well, a lot of them we can, actually.
Yeah. Yep. So did I link that?
Well, don't even talk to me about calculus. I tried taking calculus 1, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I've
It's
got
like
a
a
great
whole
book.
nother language.
I've got a great book on calculus that was written in 1906, I think, called Calculus Made Simple, I think it is. I linked it in one of my weather reports a while back. I could dig it up. But it was like the greatest book on calculus. He gives you like just this really intuitive way to understand all of it real easily. And then he,
Andy, share it now. I'd like to take a look at that.
Well, I mean,
let me see if I can find it.
I get that the basic idea of calculus is understanding, like, it's been years. I think it's something about how long, what is the speed of something in a trajectory, but it's the speed at what specific point in a trajectory. Is that correct?
Or the
Yeah,
rate
that's-
of change.
Yeah, that's really good. Yes,
What?
right, Scott.
For anybody that cares, his name is Sylvanus P. Thompson. I think he wrote it in he lived until 1916. He was born in 1851. It's called Calculus Made Easy, and I linked it in both private and public chat. And
So
you
wait-
can download a free copy at this site of the book.
Hold on,
Oh,
Lisa.
cool.
What was your question?
Gutenberg,
I'm
nice.
sorry, I was reading something. What was your question? I'm just curious. What?
Sound answered it. I was asking about the basic idea of calculus. As far as I know, and I don't know much about calculus, but isn't it something about the speed of a trajectory of an object, but the speed of an object at a particular point within the trajectory?
Kind of the rate of change of things, how things
That would be differential.
are relative.
Yes.
Here's a book right here. So let's see. I don't even know if they tell you when it was created, but it's open source because nobody owns the copyright to this anymore.
It's public domain, is what you mean, because it's
Yeah, is that what I'm saying?
Yeah,
more than 100 years.
I'm actually going to go over there.
1914.
Yeah, we're
I'm
past
actually-
100 years, so it's public domain now.
Yeah, 1914.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go over there right now and download a copy. So I will be right back.
So actually, I think if I'm remembering right, it's 50 years past the author's death for Canada, and the U.S. is pretty similar. Most countries are on board with that. I think there's a few countries that put it 100 years.
Look at the name of this first chapter: "To deliver you from the preliminary terrors."
Lisa will like that. Lisa will like that one.
That's a very hopeful title of a chapter.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And he really gets into it in just a wonderful way. I own one of the really early copies of it, or a copy that was reprinted in like 1950 or something. So I got a really old one that I managed to pick up on. I think it was on Amazon. I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty cool. But he really gets into it in a really neat, intuitive way, and it makes a lot of sense. So for anybody struggling, even for anybody who knows a lot about calculus, it might help to go back and take another look from this guy's point of view. So anyway.
Chapter XX: Dodges, Pitfalls, and Triumphs. That's great.
Was that a chapter?
Yeah, Chapter XX: Dodges, Pitfalls, and Triumphs. That's on page 224.
Okay, so down here, let's see. Dodges, pitfalls, and wow. Cool. On finding areas by integrating, and yeah, it's just really cool. Partial differentiation, how to deal with signs.
When a book covers the pitfalls that people fall into, it's usually it's really good.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait.
Yeah.
If you want, I had a more biologically related topic. If you want me to go
thank
into
God.
that.
Thank God.
Okay, go ahead, Leo.
Huh?
Oh no, Andrew.
Oh, I'm
What?
sorry, not Leo. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I have been reading. I think I have something of an answer to Andrew's question about shear stress, but I don't know.
I guess give me a basic rundown of it, and then I'll go over what my thing, I guess.
So from what I'm reading, it appears to be the stress of a shear force, which is a force. So I mean, if you imagine taking a cube of some material and keeping it fixed at the bottom, but pushing the top of it so that it started to just like deform, almost like like a parallelogram, that would be a shear force. And you can measure the stress of that applied force given some area, and that is the shear stress. So as it relates to general relativity, my assumption would be that this is measuring the stress of a shear force on space-time, on some defined area of space-time as a result of the mass energy contained within it.
Okay. I think that helps a little bit. Like the way I was envisioning it was basically a deformation of energy, which is kind of a weird way to think of it, but
I don't think that would be inaccurate though.
Right.
At least not in my mind.
Right. Because we often think of energy as this like ethereal concept, and now in general relativity, it's kind of the center stage thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I love this conversation, but I am really, really tired.
Tired.
So I'm
You've been
gonna
on for a long time.
That's right, Lisa. Take your vitamins.
Good night, Lisa.
Peace out.
especially because I
Let me
had
grab
to
a
yell
beer.
at Otangelo, you know.
Yeah, I know.
2
Lisa,
days in a row.
it's always a pleasure speaking with you, Lisa. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, nice to
Thank
see you.
you. Thank you.
And last night you had to yell at Danny.
Oh, yeah, don't remind
What
me.
is going on here? I don't know what's going on.
Alrighty, bye.
Goodbye.
Good night.
See you, Lisa.
All right.
Window. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to take a look at this. Being the very simplest introduction to those beautiful methods of reckoning, which are generally called by the terrifying names of differential calculus and the integral calculus.
Wow.
You know, this
what a
guy
great
starts
title.
off getting people started with a nice attitude. He obviously, the author obviously has a love for calculus here.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Is he from Britain or the United States or does it say?
Let me see if I can look him up and see what his history is.
To me, he sounds like Irving Finkel, the one of the curators at the British Museum, just in the tone of the writing.
Guys, I just thought of
How
a
would
new.
you know that, Scott?
So what?
Random
Somebody
thing.
just say they swallowed a newt.
Irving Finkel did a couple of videos on the Ark before Noah about the Sumerian flood story, and so through several lectures and stuff, he just has this playful, doddering old grandpa Englishman kind of attitude, and he's just really fun to listen to and delightful. And that's what the tone of the wording of that calculus book sounds like to me.
He wrote another book called Elementary Lessons in Electricity and Magnetism. He was elected to the Royal Society in 1891.
Okay, all right. So he's got that kind of attitude.
He is pretty cool. So, electrical engineer. Let's see, pretty cool.
Guys, I have a pitch for a superhero name.
Okay.
How about this? Captain Calculus.
Captain Calculus.
That sounds like
Never
Captain
gonna
Calculus
fly.
get beat up a lot in high school.
Probably.
Yeah. Don't name your kid that.
Yeah.
I'm going with Scott's opinion on this one.
Yeah.
Oh well.
It'd be cool if you named your kid that and he turned out to be the dumbest kid in class, and like a big brute that beat everybody up, that messed with him over his name. Kind of like a boy named Sue.
A boy named Sue. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
His day left home when he was 3, so
Yeah.
What?
That's right.
he didn't leave much from on me.
Just this old guitar.
Empty bottle of booze.
Energy Ball of Booze. Oh, I used to love playing that song over and over and over.
Used to. What happened?
I don't have an LP anymore.
What?
And
Which song? I missed something.
Boy Named Sue. I used to play that over and over and over on the old record player at home growing up.
Oh yeah.
You know, that author you
How
just
you gonna die?
He reminds me of a character from the movie Cloak and Dagger from the 1980s. The guy who was being imagined by the kid.
Uh-huh.
He looks a lot like him.
Yeah. Yep.
My name is Sue. How do you do?
Was that Orgate that just sung that?
Hell yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because it actually sounded really cool the way that you sung that.
It was
right there.
Gatlinburg in mid-July, and I just hit town, and my throat was dry. But okay, sorry, I'm not going to dry. He's bringing back the flood of memories.
What was that Marilyn Manson song that Cash covered? Or was it 9 Inch Nails?
That was 9 Inch Nails.
Nine Inch Nails hurt.
Yeah. Okay. That was pretty cool. That was a good rendition.
He also did a cover of "Break This Rusty Cage" from I forget which one of the Chris Cornell groups it was.
I saw 9 Inch Nails in concert, but I was too fucked up to remember it.
That's fine.
Well, that's a waste.
I think
I
that
know.
probably happens to a lot of people.
Just so you got a T-shirt.
Is it really a concert if that doesn't happen?
I don't know.
This is like one of those tree fall in the wood questions, isn't it?
Are we going around this fucking thing again? I really don't want to.
Oh no, no.
Oh,
Dualism.
No more dualism.
Say that three times. and
Dualism
Danny
sucks. Dualism sucks. Dualism.
Danny will show up.
I would say that I think we've empirically established that dualism is false.
Just a bad
Like
way to put
that. Say Biggie Smalls 3 times, and Biggie Smalls shows
Biggie
up.
Smalls, Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls.
Oh, you gotta be looking in the mirror in a South Park episode. That's what it is. Yeah.
Correct.
He'll come out shooting.
Yeah. What do we got to pay to get out of here tonight?
Oh, here, I just got a picture of this guy for you, Speed. I'll just, you can see if the resemblance makes sense for you. I'll just put it in the private chat. This is a picture from the Cloak and Dagger movie from the 1980s of a kid who ends up with a video game cartridge that has some spy secrets embedded in it, if you can play past level 99 or something. And the guy with
Debbie Coleman and whomever else.
Yeah, and the guy with the adult in the picture there the picture you showed earlier of the author of that Oculus book reminds me of that guy. I see.
Yeah, Dabney Coleman used to be just a big name back in the 80s.
Oh, you put the picture in private chat? Okay.
Yeah. So you can put it up on screen.
Oh, yeah, he does look like him.
Yeah, let's do a comparison. You can switch between the two and show us, and we can see.
I could try. Let's see.
You can do it.
I don't know if I can do it at this time of the night.
Too bad we can't do split screen though.
That's a lot of sharing screen.
Just don't
Put
know
your
how.
mom's screen last night. Oh,
that was a fun movie.
There he is.
Dabney Coleman.
And let's see. Okay, what did I do?
It was the author.
Okay.
What did you do?
I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm pretty tired. And we're gonna have Dr. Josh on tomorrow.
Oh, that's great.
What are you guys going to be talking about, huh?
We're going to be talking about like the history and the coalescence of the Old Testament. I think is what my plan is.
What time is your episode?
It is
at Dabney Coleman.
10 a.m. Central, I think. 10 a.m. Central time.
That's
So
my impression.
11 Eastern. Yep. Yeah, we're going to try to understand how the Old Testament kind of came together, because I don't know shit about the Bible. I mean, I'm just zero when it comes to the Bible. And I'm interested in the history, the times, and I'd also like to know what was going on exactly when Jesus popped up. And I kind of compare it in my amateur way to the 60s when all the hippies popped up, right? And I think Jesus was like a hippie.
When Jesus popped up or when he was propped up?
Well, both. A little of both. He got popped up.
Calm
There
down.
you go.
I don't think he was really propped up until after he died.
A lot of hippies were
decades after he
executed
died.
as well. So
Yeah.
they executed a few hippies. I know that.
Well, the only
Yeah,
thing
well,
that
when
kind of, breaks down the hippie analogy to me is the fact that, in all likelihood, Jesus was a revolutionary, apocalyptic preacher. So,
Most likely.
They call the modern ones hipsters now, don't they?
He was a hippie.
not really hippies, are they? Hipsters?
I'm not sure.
He took over. So does anybody know who Carlos Castaneda is?
Who?
That
Carlos-
That sounds
familiar.
familiar to me.
Sounds familiar, but I don't know who it is.
Okay. He
I
was an
didn't catch
archaeologist that wrote a series of books, and he supposedly interviewed some shaman named Don Juan down in the jungles of
Don
Mexico.
Juan.
Yeah, and got into these mushroom trips with him. And he did his PhD at some university in California. And later on, they found out that he faked the whole thing, and there was no Don Juan. And they changed his books to fiction. But then he went on to form a cult, and he died in like 1997, I think, of liver cancer after having this cult. But he had these 5 girls that were hanging around him. All 5 of them the next day shut off their phones, completely disappeared off the face of the earth. and one of them, her body, her bones were found in the desert out of Death Valley, but the other 4 have never been found. So
Cool.
it was.
Do you think he faked his death?
What's that?
Do you think he faked his death?
No, I think they committed suicide. I think they went on a desert journey after he died, and they all ended up dying out there. And they only found one girl's body. It was really weird. They all cut their hair the same way. They all had affairs with them. But anyway,
maybe the vultures took care of the other 4.
When I was young, I read those books cover to cover many times, and I mean, we'd basically follow his methods out in the woods, where you go out and follow paths and stuff, and weird things that happened to you, and it was it was very, very entertaining. I mean,
I bet so.
Sounds like you lived a very interesting life, very exciting life.
Who? Him? Yes.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He got very rich on his books, in spite of the fact that he kind of faked the whole thing. But there was a big controversy. I mean, a lot of hippies were following him, and a lot of people that were into mysticism and spirituality.
Judging by his writing, did you get the impression that he's a pretty smart guy?
Yeah. He was, and not only that, but extremely creative. If he made it all up,
Yeah.
Interesting. And they gave him a PhD, even though he couldn't provide any of his field notes. He had like no documentation, and they gave him a PhD anyway. I guess, which is kind of a egg on their face.
What's the name of the institution that he received?
It was
PhD?
probably UCLA or something like, or Berkeley or something like that.
It could have been worse. They could have given it to somebody who was stupid. So they gave it to a smart guy. So.
Yeah.
And wait, I'm confused because both of those are like highly accredited institutions. I don't think they would just hand out PhDs to people.
They were back then. I guess there was some reason for it. They talk about it, I think, in the Wikipedia article about
it. Been an honorary PhD too,
Is Berkeley as liberal now as it was back in the 60s?
Honorary PhD, maybe.
No, I think it's gone the other way, hasn't it, Berkeley? Or has it?
I'm not sure.
UC Berkeley?
But I think Berkeley was pretty darn hippie back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, in the 60s it definitely was. Yeah, they were all about free speech back then, and now they're all about free speech.
Safe spaces. Free speech is the worst.
Safe spaces, right. Teachings of Don Juan. He wrote like 4 books, I think, or something like that, but they were pretty incredible books. I mean, they definitely felt good reading them and following his ways.
The Christians should have hired him to write the Bible. It would have come out a lot better, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the Christians back in the 60s. My God.
Yeah, he got his PhD from UCLA. He also got his bachelor's degree there. Yeah, he has a BA and a PhD from.
Yeah, and I
guess don't know what he's got it in, but
man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't. Yeah, I mean, especially in the United States, you don't really need a master's to go into a PhD program. Generally, at least nowadays.
It's very common too.
Yeah, he even lied about where he was born, I guess. The whole thing was a fake. But the thing is, it was a masterful fake. It was pretty cool. Here's the books. Yeah. My first wife bought me a box set of these right before the Holocaust. I call the year that we divorced the Holocaust. Someday I'll tell you all the stories that involved why I call it the Holocaust.
Did it ever turn into an Armageddon?
Yeah. It was pretty bad.
You mean a divorce did not go well? Shocking.
Well, no, the divorce was really easy. It was the what I did leading up to the divorce that was the Holocaust.
Oh, it's your fault.
I still have scars.
So Carlos' books, were they controversial at the one, or are they just pretty straightforward?
They weren't well, maybe a little bit, because he talked about all of this shamanism and stuff. And one of the things that really stuck with me is Don Juan told him that you always live your life with death sitting right next to you, that you're always aware of your own mortality, that you always keep it close to you, so death is always sitting next to you. And that might seem like a dark thing, but it's not. It involves,
though. I've heard about this. Yeah,
living your life more fully. And he would talk about following paths in the forest. Like if you go out in the forest and you kind of like let your eyes fuzz, or you just kind of open yourself up, you will see a path, and you start following the path.
That's right.
And my friend started following the path, and he did it for about 2 weeks, and he started having these incredible coincidences with birds, like hitting his windshield, smashing into his windows, dead birds outside his house. And he got so freaked out, he threw the books away.
That just sounds like coincidences. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But the neat thing about it is SNATA is the one that taught me that synchronicity is the low-hanging fruit in the universe. Our minds are so good at finding patterns and things that if you start following these paths and you let yourself into it, it will lead you on a journey that you did not expect to be led on, but there'll be all of these synchronous events that you'll spot. And I realize that synchronicity is what I call the low-hanging fruit in the universe. There's so much going on in our world that and our minds are so good at picking out the patterns that you can always find something. You can find some wonderful coincidence. And it happens over and over again. And, and there's nothing supernatural about it. It's just the way complexity works. And it's really kind of cool. Yeah. And our minds are, perfectly adapted to basically accumulate and record that complexity because of the complexity of our neural networks. So, it all just matches up. So we are cool critters.
Sounds like an interesting read.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, I think I'm going to read them again.
Who's got the phone going off in the background?
I don't know.
So I was thinking, I'm saying you can fuzz up.
I thought I had muted.
I was thinking, no mushrooms required.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting till I get like some terminal disease, and I'm going to reread Ellen Watts and all this shit, and go back to my youth and do it that way, and exit the world gracefully.
Yeah.
So, but so far, no terminal disease.
Thankfully.
A lot of my friends are dying, but god damn it, nothing ever happens to me. It kind of pisses me off.
Just wait till you get about 3 more raccoons.
When you got a terminal disease, maybe you'll get lucky and be the first to actually be abducted by a space aliens who will somehow have a side effect of fixing it.
Oh yeah, that could happen. But
yeah, that'd be nice.
Yep.
As long as they return you to Earth. Not dump you up on Mars, say, we got you close enough to home, we got to go.
Yeah, walk the rest of the way.
Yeah, there you can find your way back to Earth from here.
I'm pretty sure what happened to me, I think what happened to me is that I put so many drugs and alcohol, so much drugs and alcohol into my system that no disease will have me. Like
not even COVID, huh?
Oh, your real name is Rasputin, isn't it?
I think so. Okay.
You pickled yourself before you went sober.
How did you get out of that carpet? The one that we up in and threw you in the water. And
I'm outie 5,000.
Goodbye, Leo. Yeah, I think we're going to shoot her in the head, guys. What do you think?
Yeah. Shooting in the head on the point about Rasputin sounds like a good place to end it.
That's a great way to end the stream.
See, that's synchronicity right there.
Good call.
Okay, goodbye, cruel world.
Bye.
Answers in atheism.
AIA.